Dear colleagues and friends, in Glasgow we signed the Leaders' Declaration on Forest and Land Use to halt deforestation and land degradation by 2030, a goal supported by the $19.2 billion in public and private funding. We now need to map the challenges to reach this goal and a pathway to overcome them. As president of COP25 and former Minister of Environment of Chile, I would like to thank WWF UK for organizing this important event and share with you some remarks on what it will take to turn these pledges to action. The magnitude of the task is enormous, and the resources required to invest in nature are very, very high. In my opinion, two key elements you need to make things happen are political will and institutional instruments that support implementation with the participation and joint contribution of state and non-state actors. Restoration, forestation, and land use conservation is something that non-state can do alone. This is especially true for developing countries like Chile that contain huge natural capital, but also have important social needs. You need public-private collaboration. In Chile, we understand this. The government of President Piñera worked hard, not only to establish ambitious and robust commitments and goals based on science in line with the 1.5-degree goal, but also to develop institutional instruments to promote collaboration and participation of non-state actors. In April 2020, in the middle of the COVID pandemic, we update our NDC to expand Chile's voluntary commitment to integrate 1 million hectares of landscape into restoration process by 2030, prioritizing those with the greatest social, economic, and environmental vulnerability. We know the challenges ahead of us are great, so securing the funding to achieve these ambitious goals are essential. That is why in Glasgow we present our long-term climate strategy, committing Chile to cover 30% of its current funding gap for biodiversity by 2030 and to eliminate this gap entirely by 2050. To achieve this, we are working to develop institutional instruments to mobilize both public and private funding toward protection of our biodiversity. An important tool for that are donations. For this, in July 2021, we present a bill to the Congress to eliminate historic barriers so that Chileans can donate to environmental causes they hold dear, to encourage civil society to invest and participate in funding nature. We also create the first trust fund for conservation in Chile. After 3 years of intense work, this first National Conservation Trust Fund was created through an initiative of the Ministry of Environment, the Fishing Servicing, the Forestry Service, and NGOs like CODEF, TNC, Océano, Wildlife Conservation Society, and WWF that will begin operation this 2022 and has already developed a special program for forests and watersheds and is a key tool to help non-state actors collaboration for restoration and stop land use degradation. Another new funding mechanism we have already set in motion comes from the bill we passed to reform our country's green tax on carbon emissions, allowing companies for the first time to compensate their emissions through nature-based climate solution, implementing the first national carbon market, which will allow us to mobilize more than $2 million annually towards climate action, especially through nature-based solutions. As the Dasgupta report said, our economies are not external to nature. This is why in May of this year, Chile's central bank and our Ministry of Environment met with Professor Dasgupta and committed to incorporate natural capital accounting nationally. So today, the Ministry of Environment, the Central Bank, and the National Council of Innovation for Development and the Finance Ministry are creating the Natural Capital Committee, which will allow us accounting for the contribution of natural capital to the development of Chile. Today, we know that true development can only be reached if we learn to live in harmony with nature. To do so, we need concrete policies and programs and the determination and collaboration to see them through. Chile is committed. Collaborate with us to turn pledges into action. Thank you.